Hey folks, welcome back to WarThunder. So today's video we're going to be talking about mainly the F5. So I used a combination of the F5 and the A10 to grind out the F16. The reason I'm using something that's not really very competitive, the F5 lacks a lot of features that other jets of a similar BR don't have to suffer with. So for example, it has AIM-9Js, so they're not all aspect missiles, but it faces a lot of things that fire all aspect missiles. Its radar doesn't have IFF, which is a problem, obviously, for many reasons. Part of the motivation for doing this video is the fact that I don't exactly know why, but recently a lot of people have been coming to Sim, and I've been seeing a lot of team killing happening. So I'm going to fly a jet that can't IFF with its radar and show you that it is possible to ID your target through other means. But as well as that, I also want to show you how you can still do well in an underdog aircraft just with simple application of certain energy management tactics, mostly to do with using the vertical and actually adjusting your throttle every once in a while. So WarThunder players are kind of renowned for flying around with the burner on like 99% of the time, but especially as jets get more modern and more capable, what you probably find is that everyone flies around at breakneck speed, either full military thrust or full afterburner, and the second they find anything to engage and they start to maneuver onto it, almost any kind of maneuver is going to immediately make them black out. G-forces are relative to speed, so to avoid blacking out and to aid your own maneuvers, it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but if you just fly around a little bit slower and you only utilize your speed to chase down people who aren't aware of you, then on the whole you'll actually have a better time, because if you do get shot at and you're not expecting it, you can pull way harder, you can turn way faster, you can sustain turns more easily, and you won't black out as quickly. So among other benefits, you can still actually see, because the more you black out, the less you're able to maintain visual on a target, especially if you aren't using something like head tracking, and if you're having to just move a little stick around. You don't really have a frame of reference. If you aren't moving your head physically around the aircraft, there's nothing to relate the movement against if you're blind. So if you start to black out, it's very difficult to maintain visual on things unless you're using head tracking or especially VR. To reiterate, the TLDR is that we're flying an underdog jet without IFF, and we're going to talk about energy management tactics and how to identify targets without using the radar. Okay, let's get into it then. Okay, so in this first clip, up ahead I can see like missile trails and stuff going off all over the place. Generally, the easiest way of identifying whether a target is friend or foe is by waiting to see it do something and then seeing what the kill feed says. So if you see someone fire a missile, that missile hits a target, and then in the kill feed it says that a friendly got a kill, you know that the guy who fired the missile is on your team. If a friendly dies, then you know that an enemy fired the missile, and you can then latch onto the person that fired that missile. So I'm heading in, looking at these missile trails to try and figure out what's going on. Just so happens that I get a missile fired at me. So in this situation, I haven't had a chance to verify that this is a hostile aircraft, but the fact that it shot at me is a fair indication that it probably is. And because I don't want to shoot at me again, I have to maneuver in relation to it, and I get a visual ID that it's a MiG-29, and I know that Russia are on the enemy team, so that's my target ID done. At the merge, I went vertical, because I had slowed down. I went to zero throttle in case it was an IR missile, and then I went vertical to bleed off even more speed. If I'm bleeding speed, I'm slowing down. If I'm slowing down, I'm not going to G out, I'm not going to black out as quick, so I can actually turn around faster. And if you level turn, if you flat turn like I am doing right now, then you bleed off speed with no chance to regain it. But if you loop up and over, the dive on the back end will regain what you lost in the maneuver, and actual gravity will help pull your nose up and over to turn you around faster. So looping is much quicker than flat turning, and you retain energy through it. So as you can see, through a combination of those factors, we were able to identify that that was an enemy MiG-29, and despite him getting the first shot off, we were able to maneuver onto a 6 and kill him. In this situation, I visually ID'd this aircraft as a MiG-23, and I know that Russia are enemy. However, Germany also gets MiG-23s, and at this stage I think that Germany are on my own team, but you'll have noticed that that Phantom came in and fired at him, and the Phantom does have IFF, so I was basically relying on the fact that the Phantom engaged the target first to tell me that it was hostile. In this situation, I've just took off, I'm rolling around, and I see the enemy carrier, the friendly carrier, shooting. So in WarThunder, tracer fire is a little bit bugged at times, but the only reason that the friendly carrier would be shooting anything anywhere is if there's an enemy in proximity, and I see a contact up here. So even though the tracers aren't shooting at this target, it's probably just bugged. And right there I can identify visually that it's a MiG-23. During the merge, again we went vertical to turn around faster and maintain more energy through the turn. And we got close enough during that to pass within about a kilometre. 900 meters is where the name tags pop up, so if you're really not sure, just get within 900 meters and then you'll be able to ID. So right here, the fact that a lot of dirty smoke was coming out of his jet, so I knew he wasn't in burner, so I knew that I would be able to catch him even though I'm in a much slower jet. So sometimes if they aren't kicking smoke out, it's because they're in burner, and generally in that instance it's not worth chasing them down if you're in something like an F5 that doesn't have the best top speed. So right here we're being locked on the RWR, and what you'll notice is I roll with my belly facing the contact, the RWR will go silent. There you go. So that's because he hasn't stopped locking me, because there it is, it's back again. Your beneath your belly and over your back are RWR blind spots. So I can see that that contact has actually fired a missile at me. It's a radar missile, which means that whatever that thing is will have IFF'd me as hostile. So I've used some terrain masking to block the lock, to block the line of sight, and then I'm going to turn hot towards the target. A lot of people will assume that you'll continue on the same heading that you were on when they last saw you, so by turning hot immediately like this, I'm actually going to pop up in a different spot to where he'll have been expecting. And at this point, based on how dirty the smoke it's kicking out is, and the size of it, I can tell that it's a MiG-29. And I know that MiG-29s are hostile because Russia is on the enemy team, and only Russia get MiG-29s. Again, we loop over vertically to turn around, because on the climb up we lose speed, which means we can pull harder without blacking out, and on the downward leg we build the speed back up, so there's no net loss in our energy management. We're maintaining it, if not even gaining it, in the dive out. So this MiG-29 seems to be manoeuvring in relation to me, but I don't think he's actually seen me yet. I think he lost visual in the merge. If you're thinking about getting into sim, I'm not telling you to get head tracking, because I actually started out on console myself. It is possible to set up controls using the mouse and things like that, but the key thing is your view controls must be fluid and they must be dynamic enough for you to be able to follow contacts through any kind of maneuver, because if you lose sight, you're going to lose the fight. MiG-29 is obviously a significantly more capable aircraft than the F5. Yeah, I'm reeling him in and I'm killing him, and he doesn't even know that I'm here. And again, he was kicking dark smoke out, which means that he's not in afterburner, which means that even something like a Epoxy F5 can catch up to him fairly easily. Moving on to the next clip, and what I've noticed since the patch dropped is that gyro gun sights have actually improved quite significantly. If you target lock something, you'll notice that the gun sight just vanished as I got locked. That's because it was showing the lead I needed to pull, and the lead was such that it disappeared off the screen, so I had to pull so much ahead. As I've got him locked, notice on the radar how the vertical and horizontal bars are adjusting, and how when I lock him again it's going to jump. You see how it just snaps back a little bit to show me the lead, and they're actually quite accurate. So I've been using Frogfoot quite a bit just to practice and get my eye in. But the key takeaway from that is that when you lock people up, generally the sight jumps, so it means you need to pull more lead. Okay, so we've been fired on. This is just after I killed that other MiG-29 from earlier. So I'm running cold again. You see how I'm not at full throttle here? Because I don't want to be going flat out. If this guy closes the gap and starts engaging me, I want to be able to turn hot without blacking out. Because if I do, I might lose sight of him, or he might get an advantage. I think at this stage I don't even have the G suit unlocked with the F5, so this is even more important if you're in a stock aircraft. So I'm pushing towards this hill in the distance to try and terrain mask, because if I break line of sight, I break his radar lock and then he can't shoot at me. And it also means that he'll lose a little bit of situational awareness, because once I'm behind this hill, I can go anywhere so long as it's not where I was going before, and he'll have to second guess where that is. Whereas I know where he is, I can actually see him visually, he can probably see me visually as well. But we're going to turn around, and the closer we get to him, the better our chances are, because his advantage is range. So there he is. I'm not sure what he's doing. He might have just spotted me because he's turning hot. He sort of points nose on, but then he goes over me. So again, we're able to ID him, because not only did he shoot at me first, but when we merged, I got close enough that the name tag didn't pop up, and I can identify that it's a MiG-23. And because I have head tracking, I was able to maintain visual through the merge, and again I went vertical for the same reasons that we've gone over before. So he's starting to maneuver. So it doesn't really matter what you're flying or what they're flying. If they aren't flying directly away from you, if you intercept their turn, if you pull ahead and cut into it, you're always going to get closer. And right now he is kicking smoke out, which tells me that he's not in burner. So I'm able to get close enough to get a missile off. And then this looks like an A5. So I think he might have seen me as we merged. So again, I'm going to go vertical because it means I can pull harder without blacking out. I gain altitude through it, so as I dive back down and get my energy back. But also, coming down on top of someone means that it doesn't really matter what direction they go in, because you can always follow them. And if you do it right, you can just energy trap them completely. So the A5 is based on the MiG-19 chassis, which is one of the best energy fighters in the game, because it can just power through pretty much every maneuver. But if he just goes full backstick every time he sees me to try and pull me around, so he's pointing his nose at me, he's going to bleed all his speed off, he's going to run out of energy. And if I play my cards right and I don't pull max backstick all the time, and I manage my speed and my throttle, I can just come down on him like this from above, and there's not really a lot he can do. And again, I've got him target locked, so you can see how the gyro gun starts bouncing around all over the place. Where it's not very good is if the target's jinking around quite a lot, but where it does work quite nicely is if they're pulling a consistent turn and you're pulling a consistent turn after them. So I'll lock or unlock the target based on what they're doing to help get the best gun solution. So here you can see that I started blacking out there, so I eased off, which let me regain my energy. He's maintained full backstick through the whole thing, so I was able to essentially open a gap and then pull into him so that I was in a position to engage with my guns. And I did get a bit lucky hitting his wingtip off there, because I'm still not really that familiar with the F5's guns. I hear a jet pass me, and visually it's close enough, it's slow enough that I can quite clearly tell that's a MiG-29. Again, MiG-29's hostile. I don't have missiles. I lock him up just to spook him, but I don't think this guy really knows what he's doing, because he shouldn't be this low and this slow in a MiG-29. So I'm not going to call that skill. I could have probably killed him in a prop in that situation. But that was a 4-kill flight in an F5 in an 11.7 game without IFF, and I didn't end up team killing anyone. So you can see that it is definitely possible if you actually apply some thought to what you're doing, instead of just shooting at everything that you see. So the gyro gun sight's kind of shitty for shooting at targets that are just flying in a straight line. It's better for high deflection shots. Every time you kill someone, check your 6, even if it's AI, because you don't know if someone might be right behind you. And right in that situation, it saved me, because this guy had launched a missile on me. I think it might have gone for something else, so I was saved by it. But then he runs cold, and the orientation he is from me right now, I'm under him and behind him, so he has no chance of seeing that missile launch. I think he just thought he was going to run away and get away before I could fire a missile off. Tornado comes in, does exactly the same thing again. I think his missile goes for the sun, otherwise I'd probably be dead right now. But again, if I hadn't checked my 6 after killing the other guy, I wouldn't have known that he was there. He must not have countermeasures yet, so he didn't have much chance of dodging that missile at the speed that he was at. Moving on, and my grind strategy with the F5 was essentially to go and bomb a base, and then just shoot down anyone that I could. If not, I just head back. But there I jettisoned my bombs because I saw this guy behind me. I don't even know at this point whether it's actually an enemy or not, but by the look of it, it looked like he was turning hot on me after doing a 180. Weirdly, he didn't actually follow me once he turned around, so it might have just been chance, which is why I'm thinking that maybe it's a friendly. But I dropped my bombs anyway because it's not worth the risk of being engaged when you're lugged down by a huge amount of weight, so dropping them immediately lets me start to build my speed up. I'm struggling to chase it down. It's pointless to put my radar on at this point because I can't IFF the target anyway. A friendly just called for backup, and I'm seeing someone dropping floats, so I'm putting 2 and 2 together here. I might be wrong, but for the most part, when things line up that well, it's usually because, you know, the guy asking for help is the guy that you're seeing struggling. And I get to this point and I can see that it's a MiG-23. MiG-23s are hostile. Germany and Russia are on the enemy team this time, so 100% guarantee that's an enemy. AIM-9E gets him. Jobbed. So Denmark's a tricky map because it's extremely flat and there's a lot of sea. Best way to fly the F5 is to just stay extremely low, and it makes it harder for you to spot visually. Don't go over water because obviously it's one solid colour and you stand out against it. Here we see dirty smoke of a MiG-29, and I think, wow, this is an easy kill. So I fire an AIM-9J, which I finally have unlocked by the way, and it completely makes him aware of my presence. I lock him up just to keep him worried. And what that means for most people is that they're just going to pull full back stick and freak out. And I'm not doing that because I don't want to black out. So he's bleeding off a shitload of speed, and I'm maintaining it quite well. So I'm going to wait until I get relatively close to him, pull him into the hood and lock him up, and then he's going to go vertical, which is a horrible mistake to make. And I just spray his wingtip off, puts him into an unrecoverable spin, and down he goes. Then I spot a MiG-23 right in front of me, and Germany and Russia are on the enemy team, so without doing anything else, I know 100% that that's an enemy. It looks like he's manoeuvring in relation to me right now, so I'm worried. He's above me and we're rate fighting. I'm basically fucked. So I'm trying to pull hard enough to keep with him, but not so hard that I bleed speed, and ideally I want to actually gain a little bit of it, and I also want to climb a little bit to try and negate his energy advantage. But I don't think he saw me, and he just buggers off. And then, as if I didn't already know who was an enemy, he, for some reason, fires his gun at a ship, a friendly ship. So now I'm 100% sure it's, I mean I already was, but very very sure that it's, that it's an enemy. AIM-9J nearly does something a bit weird there, but it kills him. And then we'll move on to the last clip of the video. So, missile shooting overhead, and a friendly dies. 100% an enemy. As I zoom in I can see that it's quite a thin profile, and it's only got one engine, so it's 99% likely to be a MiG-23 with its wings swept back, which is consistent with the speed that he's travelling at. So I've ID'd my target. Now he's on a side-on profile with full silhouette. I can very clearly see that it's a MiG-23. And like I said earlier, if you pull lead you'll get closer, but that thing that just crossed my nose is a MiG-29. The MiG-23 is already tangled up with a Viper, which I assume can handle it. So I'm going to break off and go after the bigger threat. Because there's dirty smoke coming out of the MiG-29, I know he's not in burner, so I know I can catch him. And I lock him up in the hope that it'll get him turning, because if it gets him turning, I can cut inside his turn and get closer even faster. So I am being locked from behind. I'm just going to ignore it for now. MiG-29 is actually turning me back in towards the lock, which is not great, so I'm going to have to start keeping my wits about me. He has merged back with the original dogfight, which just ended in the enemy's favour, so the MiG-23 actually killed the F-16. I'm not sure how the hell that ever happens, but I'm now in a 2-on-1 situation. This is actually the last clip of the video. That MiG-23 doesn't end up finding me. I just focus the MiG-29 down, and once I kill him, I latch onto another one. which just runs me away from me for ages, and I end up having to abandon the chase and go back for fuel. So that's the end of the video. But I think I've proved that you can do relatively well without IFF, just so long as you actually think about stuff logically. And even if you're in a slower, less capable aircraft, you can still get work done if you're mindful of ways to maintain your energy well and avoid G-lock, because that limits your visibility and it obviously limits your turn rate. So using vertical maneuvers and managing the throttle to maintain a lower speed in general so that you can continually turn tighter, they're just easy, very easy things you can do to change your playstyle that will massively improve your success rate. But yeah, hope you enjoyed that video, folks. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.